So you felt stress in a way that it was quite impactful with the second child. It wasn't, so the one that had the tumor, well, that was the first child. So
Second.
it was
It
the
was
second.
second.
Oh,
Yeah.
so you started feeling stress even before you found out your child had a tumor.
Yes.
So this
Yes.
is more many
So
years then.
she was a trauma birth. So she came out blue. And this is quite typical. And just I had a lot of postpartum issues afterwards. I had to have a catheter. My husband was traveling every week for work. And so I was alone. And I remember she was only 2 weeks old. And he's like, I gotta go. Like, I gotta work. I gotta travel. And I'm like, okay. And I remember him traveling. And I still remember that phone call. I remember being in our bedroom going, oh my God, like I can't do this. Like, here I am with a catheter, and I had a toddler that was trying to step on the catheter. Like, it was like, oh my God. Yeah, it was very stressful. And then my daughter, who was the newborn, she had colic, she had severe eczema, she had all these issues and she didn't sleep for 8 months. Anybody who's a new mom would know when they have, when you're burping your baby and then you keep putting them down and then they keep throwing up. And so she was a really tough baby. And I could say that I was 100% very stressed out.
Yeah, it's a pity that doctors didn't really want to help you with this thing. It was just, oh yeah, you're a new mom, so of course you're going to be stressed. They didn't give you any tools or anything.
Nothing.
Wow.
Nothing. And the thing is that, it was almost like this. Okay, so this would have been in 2005. I feel like at that time there was a lot less advocacy for women than there is now. She's now 16 and healthy, and I thank God for that every day. But, you know, back then we didn't have that. It was suck it up, buttercup. Like, you're a new mom. This is what it's about.
Wow. So then tell me, how was it that you made this connection that the thyroid cancer or was due to stress?
Okay. So my daughter had soft tissue sarcoma. This would have been in 2010. And, I probably for that time when she was diagnosed, I don't really remember sleeping much. I remember barely even eating. I broke my foot at the same time, and I refused to get a cast or treatment because I'm like, I got to drive her to appointments. And then what happened was I couldn't get an appointment who would with a specialist. This is a general surgeon to do a biopsy, because this is before we knew that she had a malignant tumor. I couldn't get an appointment for over 6 months. And I said, no, like mom's intuition. I'm like, there's something wrong. This is not a simple fatty cyst. And it was kind of a bluish color. I'm like, this is wrong. And in the pit of my stomach, I was like, something's wrong. And then actually, one of my husband's childhood friends operated on her. And he took her in almost right away within a few days when we told him that we couldn't get an appointment at a children's hospital for 6 months. And then that's when it all kind of started. And then, it was inconclusive and blah, blah, blah. So the stress was probably crazier than one could imagine when you find out that your child has a cancer at 5. And so I was like, oh my God, like what does this mean? It was just everything was thrown into the air, right? And so I actually got very, very skinny again during that time. And I was taking a boot off, one of those casts, those air casts. I refused to get a proper cast because I'm like, I got to drive her here. Because my husband was working. He was the only one working. And so then almost a year after I found it, and she had had 2 surgeries, and she was going every year for regular MRIs and scans. And I just, I had a migraine with aura. So, and this was the first time in my life. I'm like, am I having a stroke? Like, what's going on? And I just so happened to see my family doctor was not there. And I'm not going to speak ill will of anybody, but it was a substitute doctor. And she's like, this is not normal for a woman to just start getting migraines at 41. Let's do some real investigative testing. She did a brain MRI, she did a carotid artery. And then when they did the carotid arteries ultrasound, she's like, do you know that you have like 5 nodules? And one of them was quite large. She's like, we need to do a fine needle biopsy. And that was when, I hope I'm answering your question, but only one of the 5 nodules, which was tiny, Zora, like we're talking 6 millimeters, was cancerous. And this is where I believe the stress comes into play. So cancer and stress, I believe, are very closely tied. A poor diet, poor sleep, all of those factors, I believe, is what made that one tiny little nodule that may have been there before turn, and the cells to turn.